Hello, hello, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another ES Futures trade stream. It is 9:10 a.m. Eastern Time in the US, and today is Thursday, September 13th. Right, let's start with what happened yesterday. It was a quite interesting day. It has been some days with opportunities the last couple of days, early in the morning, I should say. And yesterday, I believe, was one of the most clear, but it wasn't easy, right? It wasn't easy because what we had as the market opened during or after having a a market that was actually not in sync, right? Following following the opening of the week, this week has remained as a sluggish and a week that really lack conviction in any direction. And all indices were somehow or another, some way or another, were not in sync the past days, uh, meaning that while Nasdaq may have been in range, the ES was trending in the short term. I'm talking. The Dow was uh, really strong, has a strong upside, and Russell being just in a very wide range, right? And I believe the most important opportunity came in Nasdaq yesterday, when or where or after, as you can see, this overnight, these grays are the overnights, the profiles for the overnights, and they are very similar to Nasdaq and ES. Our inventory was 100% long yesterday. This is where settle was, with one peculiar characteristic. Since ES is the only one that I monitor with detail, in the past days, one thing very noticeable thing was that there was tremendous amount of blocks throughout the days that were only more or mostly in the sales side, meaning that while the market was going higher, there was I cannot say there is positioning there because there's so many things that can happen, right? So many things that can happen, and also sometimes many of these blocks that come here don't necessarily happen at at one specific time. They can be reported, right? They can be reported at one time, but it doesn't mean that they have been executed at that time. And all that because this is the ES is an index, well, institutional. There's a lot of institutional interests in, and plenty of dark pools and all that stuff happen. Um, Activity that come from private exchanges and all that can be just, there's no way for us regular or retail traders to know, right? And what I have here, this line here is the volume that ES has or this one, the accumulated volume in ES has, and the one I have here or down here, it is the volume accumulated from what I can see here in Sierra, which I believe is very, very accurate. I think it's even more accurate than window trader. And the past days, difference between one and the other was really minimal, right? With Monday may be the exception. There is 50,000 contracts, the difference. Right? But there is a lot. And what happened Monday is we have this day here with tremendous activity here on the blocks, big blocks traded. And it happens to be a day where there's a differential there about 50,000 contracts here. Right? So there is something going on here. Now, the shutdown has ended. The shutdown has ended, and now what is or what can be in the minds of traders now, right? Just imagine, I am just imagining this thing. Like, now the shutdown is over, I believe most people would have a positive bias of this market. That's why I think if I check now, hold on.
Yeah, try to get them both up.
If I check, oh boy, this is a distraction. Hold on. What's this? If I wanna check Twitter. We don't have any earnings. I mean, relevant, right? I have Cisco yesterday. I believe Nvidia is reporting Monday after the close. But what Nasdaq is an inside. We have a 3-day balance here with a gap in the upper side and a gap in the lower side. And also, there's nothing here that is clear, all right? That's if there is something that I have just in front of the opening here. And what I have here, these are the indices. ES. If I check ES, for example, yesterday look, especially Nasdaq looked like a long liquidation with a volume, with a potential opening. Okay, this is going to be very interesting. We still have 10 more minutes. It's still very interested in where this market can open. This is the ES. Same goes to Nasdaq. Very close to open inside, which makes a world of difference. Russell, very unlikely that it's going to open inside. Russell seems to be opening with a downside gap. The Dow is an inside day. I mean, it's going to open inside previous range. But again, indices not in sync. So why I pay attention to this, because when they are not in sync, the odds of rotation increases. When they are all doing one thing, because the odds that we are going to have some kind of trend maybe during the day increases as well. The ES. I guess this is too big for me. I got my screen too big here. Let's make it smaller. All right. The EX is back again inside this range, inside this 6-day range, right? After the penetration of this lower range in the weekly time frame, it's come back almost reached the opposite side. The current week opening outside this range, try to get back inside, failed, and now is aiming probably to make a new high. If this month, right, this is something really interesting here, right? I'm checking where this month has opened. Okay, we talked about this before. If this keeps going higher, the tail that this month, which will leave behind it, will be incredible, right? Really, really incredible buying tail. And having that kind of buying coming up here is way different than the one that we may have down here, for example, right? When inventory was long, we have a significant tail here, but nothing happened here. Inventory remains long, it's still in the market, no rebalancing has happened, okay? And the market is still trending higher. Just notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months trending higher. Now, with the odds increasing that this market may close, we close the year with a new high. Right? So all time frames, as we can see here, aiming to the upside. If today opens below yesterday's range, now hence the relevance of what we were just talking, if opens below yesterday, that will give us an end to this upside trend. So odds of rebalancing here or sideways trading here just around this range increases, right? Let's check NASDAQ. So I am doing this time because the correlation between these indices have been of help. I usually don't do this, but it has been important this week. We have a channel, we have a range in NASDAQ, being right at the center of that range. It's a no man's land, it's a dead zone, it's a trap zone. You can this kind of positioning where the market is, it doesn't favor actually trading, right? But we have seen some selling coming from very specific levels here, for example, right? Just where support, or in this case resistance is. It was support. I haven't put this trend, these lines here yesterday or today. A couple of these ones were here for a long time. This red line here is new. And look at this. Well, this is the daily time frame. What it is, right? Look above, failure back inside. It can target this low, which puts the market back, in this case NASDAQ, back inside this very wide range, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 week range down here. Will be interesting to see where it opens relative to this trend, this short term. Maybe this is going to be the 17, what is this? The 600. Where is the 600 in NASDAQ? 600 is way up here. Wow, actually that's zero, where zero is, basically. Right? And can be used, this can be used to sell, or maybe may establish a daily high around this until this support or resistance is taken. But the gaps above and below just is it's just another piece of information that just highlights how little confidence is in this market in any direction. The Dow is the one that has really strong upside. After has checked, is the only one that hasn't checked the bottom of the range. It was bought kind of like right around the center without too much penetration into the range. And then after it came back out of this range, the upside has been tremendous in this market. It's not nobody's surprises. You got this trend here right? And it's breaking the weekly range here. Or if I'm going to, and this is, I don't trade based on this, but I cannot avoid watching, observing this patterns here, right? You know, the more a market respect or trades for specific or very visual levels, the more likely that the dominant type of trading is just short-term trading. And Russell, you know, you can see this big range here, right? And it's trading just back and forth from the 50s here. Can go anywhere here. Now, regarding the other markets, this is a downside trend in crude oil, big range in the dollar, and the gold seems to be recovering. It didn't reach the 50, just kind of start to buy from the 50s. It seems we're going to see another upside maybe here towards the another attempt to reach the 5,000. Who knows? Upside trend at risk in the bond market. You know, we can put a trend line here, and the current range is just below that, right? But it's still going higher. This is testing. It is testing the trend here. It's breaking below the range. The overnight is going to open. It has opened with a gap to the downside. Has came back inside, which targets the opposite side actually. Short covering here. And the 15 actually is a day to the downside with odds to keep going lower here because of this low. Even in the bond market, even the other markets are very, very out of sync, right? One is going higher, another one going lower, another one trending, another one in range. So that can give us something for today. I'm not saying anything here, but one of the first things that happened after a day like yesterday, after we witnessed the day we have yesterday, what is in mind, what is in traders' mind is what happened yesterday at the opening. More likely, they will attempt to do the same today. But the context is different, okay? Now we have some short inventory. I would say even, as we can see here, POC is below 7. There's a good accumulation of inventory down here. Volume is increasing as well. It's higher than the previous days, at least twice the previous days. So there is some pressure, so there's some volume here. If this market breaks, there is some volume that will be accumulating to the downside, but the inventory, the shorts, is not, or at least from my point of view, in stronger hands, right? Which is different from these days. And I will be very, very observant on what is the reaction of the market to the opening and to the gap, okay? Yesterday, the market did not have acceptance below this range, below this distribution, and now I want to see what happened now. It's right at support. This is the 68.44, that's right at support. If this gap is closed, everything changes. All right, let's see how it's open, this opens. Market's open, gap is here. Nasdaq has closed its gap. Very narrow, very, very, very short gap, very small gap in Nasdaq. Do you see that kind of movement? I don't like when that kind of moves happen. It seems like there's some pressure. Very weird to the downside. Gap is there. We have volume during the pre-market hours. The shutdown has ended. That's what I know. Now the upside trend in the daily time frame has ended as well. All right. There's a non-excess low down here. That can potentially be the destination of this current movement. Down here would be accompanied by Nasdaq closing, potentially targeting the close of the gap. Another upside in it is one thing selling or having absolutely nothing to the upside here, and then the kind of movement that we have seen, like boom, like this quick movements to the downside, right, which is very different to the kind of opening that we had yesterday, to this one here. Let me close. I have too many charts here. This low is very questionable low. It's like a half back as well. There's a non-excess low. So the odds are here for this market to at least check this low. Now, that's another thing if that happens. Okay. After all, as the day developed yesterday, I see this market as a market that actually favor trade or favor two-way trade. You know, when this kind of with this kind of movements happen, no, it has closed the upper gap, really tiny gap to the upside. Pretty much repairing these lows, 1, 2, 3 lows, and now the market is out of balance. Now the market is out of balance after failing to have any kind of upside. Now the Nasdaq is testing the opposite side, and below it actually has nothing. There is nothing here supporting this market, and this market actually have the better odds, you know, for downside. If that cannot happen, or it is really struggles to do that, I got to be very careful here. And actually, for this market, I see what the market is doing, right? I see what the market is trying to do, but I am very hesitant to do anything here. The overnight low has been taken. Very sluggish, man. Very sluggish now. Now it's drying down here. This is Nasdaq. Right at the center, right below, we have some accumulation volume. Let's see now that we have some of the gap is being taken here. I am looking for volume coming here as this market goes lower. the 72 in the ES. Where is the 72? 72 is up here. Okay, right there. There was tremendous volume to the downside here. Also the 82. Color. Let's make it red. Alright. Let's make it red as well. Okay. Let's. I'm not. As I say, have no intentions to do anything here. But I want to see the dome. Come on, man. Really? What's happening to you? The way how Nasdaq is moving is just. It seems very forced. Well, it's not loading. This low is not good here, but we may see some kind of like small bounce here.
Order filled. Stop filled.
Rhythmic is not working, huh? Let me close this. Okay, give me a second. I wanna open my. I would like to open my charts. Just a second, please. All right. Okay. Now it's better here. It's just crazy, man. Half of the gap. Failing to have acceptance back inside this range. But the fact that it has closed this gap also puts the downside movement in doubt here. Alright. Next thing to the downside, the 6800. 40, 10 minutes. Ooh, we have good volume. Better than yesterday. Same in volume overall. Let me check if I can do the same thing that I did here. Chart settings to NQ as well. I'm very interested in that market now. Apply, okay. Okay, this is the daily. Okay, look at that. Look, oh, there's another gap here. Huh, I missed that. All right, this is the daily histogram from Nasdaq. There's some volume here. Right? All of these whites, now we, the past 3 days have give us something here. It's filling the upside, trying to go higher. Now let's see if this one holds. If this one fails, no, my bad, this is not the gap. The gap is the whole thing here. My bad, sorry about that. Now, and this gap, gap being close with another gap, and today's gap being close with another gap. That is just, this actually may reach this lower side. These two markets have solid references in the lower side, the 6,800. But check this out. Huh? If ES keeps going lower, now it's leaving a gap up here, and if this 68 is reached, there is no reason. Huh? There's no reason. In the same way how Nasdaq can or has nothing down here, the ES has nothing down here, and more than that, all of this inventory that was going higher, there is a lot of short-term. I would call it retail, right? I'm not for sure, but very short-term, weak longs, positioning in the past 3-4 days, versus really significant volume that I marked here. For example, there's a lot of big blocks, and all of those, every single block, the differential was to the downside. The differential was in the bigger side was in the outside, and that's why I have all them, pretty much all them, pointing to the downside. With one I have like 20 maybe here, and only one is pointing high. I have a lot of doubts, man. I have a lot of things here. The action here is very extended to the downside. Okay, now this level is now in play. Let me check my charts. That would be the 5-week range here. Yeah, that's well. And why I got this? Because this puts the market back in the weekly, in the 5-6 week range below. Nasdaq is back inside the 6 week already, potentially targeting the 25,000. Coincides the 25,000. What is the 25,000? Let me put. Okay, there's something here actually. 25,000, 25,30, which will be here. This one here is the 50 SMA. Uh-oh, come on. For Nasdaq, there has to be another one here. Just give me a second. I'll give you the next one. 36. No, actually all of them are the same. The 30. Okay. This could be, this is, hold on. This is important reference here for Nasdaq actually in the lower side. What about, let me check the ES. This is way below, 67.48. Where is it? Where this one is? 67.48. Down here. Come on, man. Let me save this thing. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, I didn't mean to do that. Save it. Save us. Let's minimize this. And look at what we have in here. As this Nasdaq, as this market gap to the upside, it left nothing. There's absolutely nothing here, as you can see. There's nothing here down below. This market was just too short, it seems. There's nothing here. I mean, the reference here could be actually the upper side. I'm not saying that's going to do it, right? You have this area here. For the ES, at least, yeah, look at that, man. This is very different. This is very different here. This low was absolutely bad, terrible low. That's these 2 days. That one has been taken care of. Now, remains to be seen. We have a lower gap here now. Very nice volume, man. Very nice volume for the ES. Notice how we still have 10 more minutes and it is already as high as yesterday with 1/3 of the period to go yet. So there is something here. The way how this, look at that, look at those. I mean, I don't know if you trade ES on Nasdaq, but I am becoming familiar. No, I am checking Nasdaq often now, more often, more than I used to do. I am seeing some patterns in the movements. And the way how it is moving today is just, it is, to me, at least, and please take whatever I say with a grain of salt, it looks like a day that is not favoring two-way trade. Very unbalanced day. Look at how much has bounced from these lows, man. 340, that's 50 points in like one couple minutes. 50, something like that. 50, 60. Market's out of balance. Now I'm going to expand these profiles now. I'm going to take these ones out What the heck? Alright, all these merges. Because now I think this can become relevant now. For Nasdaq, I am just checking the gap here. The 50 SMA in Nasdaq coincide. Check this out. Coincide with the higher the value area of this day. This profile here is 3 days that I just merged. Look at this, man. Look at this. Look at what this market is back inside this range. Huh? Isn't that interesting here? This high is very questionable high here. These 3 days here, I mean actually all the days above yesterday's high, this one, all have extremely very questionable highs. Really, it really does. Okay, there's potential for for this market to take actually to generate some kind of short covering or short squeeze really fast here to the upside. Okay, that might be wishful thinking. Maybe. So be careful. I am merging the last 5 days up here because what I am interested here now is this lower side. Okay. Now let's see if this market has some downside continuation here. This low has been corrected. Here is the driver. Low has been corrected. We have a gap to the upside. Basically, the market is in between two gaps. The lower part of this distribution has been taken. The trade has been completed here. If there is something else here, the market will just continue its way lower here. It has tremendous volume, man. Tremendous volume. At least the ES has. The market overall has not. Look at the volume the ES has relative to yesterday. It is kind of really high here, compared with the highest days of the last 10. That was still an inside day. That was the only one that is an inside day. trying or aiming to check the lower side. Okay. All right. Who would say? Half back there, right there. Did it came right to the center? Has a gap. Look at that retracement Nasdaq is having. Ooh boy. And I believe closing the upper gap has a lot to do what is happening now. Now, this is, I am checking Nasdaq. This is the daily, this is the histogram, and this is the profile. Okay, I guess Nasdaq, I have the tendency to look, to zoom out here. That's why at least that's why. This is the low of the 3-day range. Okay. If I'm doing something here, I don't want this market to come back inside this range, really. It has retraced quite a bit, man. Has retraced quite a bit, more than 60-70%. Now the ES is coming back right to the center. Look at that. Look at where it is now. It's back inside the 2-day range. Couple minutes to the for the next period. Okay, Nasdaq, where are you? Right there. Okay. Back and forth from the center. If you check value, the past days in the years, value was going higher actually. Nasdaq we have lower value yesterday. So the divergence between these markets, right, was notable there. All right. Milliseconds for the second period. It seems like what we have here. Look at where it opened. Well, Nasdaq has opened right a half back. It seems like what we had here is buy the rumor, sells the news event, right? Or buying the shutdown and selling, the end of it. Come on, man! Look at this profile here. Look at what we have up here. Look what we have down here. both markets are now unbelievable. Both are right. Both are very, very similar here. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Let me just, as I say, this is I mean, this is so obvious, but I have just seen this. 30 minutes late. This is a 3-day range. Nasdaq, right? Breakout of the inside day. Breakout of the 2-day range and failure. Failure to print an outside bar. Because it closed the inside range. And now the next thing it does is just, you know, it explodes the opposite end. This could have been this could have been a good trade here. Now, if I can just go back in time, right? And this is 30 minutes late. 30 minutes. Okay. All right, you gotta be patient here. This is not my market. NQ, I'm just starting to because actually I don't know why most retail traders like to trade Nasdaq. It's very volatile. No, any piece of news, anything is wild, right? And just it moves so fast. It's very thin. It's quite different to ES. And what happened in Nasdaq also is you got to position yourself, or give the market a lot wider space, wider room to breathe, right? So, and what that means is my stops have to be really wide, right? While in the ES, I may have, at some points, I might have just a couple ticks, for example, right? If for the market, just to let me know that my trade doesn't work. But that's not the case in Nasdaq. Nasdaq can take or can go against you 10, 20 points, and the trade still can be good, right? But the question is, are you willing to take that amount of risk? Now look at this. There's something here, right? There's volume coming here in the lower side. All right. The logical way to think is this will have some downside here. That's the more rational way to think. Don't forget that markets are irrational. Oh, look at that. They're attempting to buy from this opening here. No, I don't like it. I don't like this market, to be honest. May be wrong, but I think that it's not favoring two-way trade right now. I did some trades yesterday to the upside here in the last auction, especially because this was coming from support. Also, I don't know what the heck this line is. Also, it seems to me that there was potential for some sort of squeeze here. It didn't work. Pretty much that was just a couple scratch trades in the last period, in the last late in the day, late in the session. Look at these highs here, right? 1, 2, 3 highs. And this very mechanical selling up here. Okay. Notice the accumulation that happened here. Very weird here, really very weird. This chart is not working. What the heck is happening here? 6387? That's not where the market is. What the heck? Oh. This means just no blocks here. The last block was at 8 p.m. last night. And look at this. I got to be very careful here, right? Especially when traders start to pile to the downside, but it's not successful. I got to be very careful here. What I am seeing here is this market can do crazy things here. I didn't like the way how this market retraces. Both markets retrace way too much, man. Let's pay attention. This is Nasdaq. I'm going to pay attention to. Look at that. How close, or if this one gets back inside this 3-day range. That's something that is very bad for the shorts. Remember, the view of the market is positive also after the shutdown has ended. So there's a good amount of traders that are going to be looking to the upside here. But it has to come back inside, at least inside this 3-day range. And it has a gap in the lower side. Oh, actually, that's a significant gap. More than half of that gap has been closed. Big gaps. Huh. Look at that. Look at that, man. Hold on. We have something here. There's another push here. Should be another push to the downside. If that doesn't happen, watch out the upside. 51. Very close here. Where's the 51 here? Line 51, 51 here. Very close to that one. No, why this accumulation here? This actually can be fuel for more downside here. Okay, we got something here. Starting to move. The market shouldn't come back below this reference here. Got something to the upside here. And actually I'm doing Nasdaq here. Again, Nasdaq is back inside the 3-day range, which is really dangerous here. Really dangerous, something you don't want, huh? Okay, let's see what this market does here around. What I'm doing here, the days to the downside, okay? The traders will be selling rallies here. Traders will be selling rallies. What I did here is it's something that just came out of nowhere, right? We have this gap. Just check how big this gap was, okay? As we were talking, this is where the gap is. More than half of the gap has been closed. This is a big gap, and big gaps usually take more than one attempt to close, more than one day to close. Now this high is no good. Now you can see this high is no good. This high is no good. What we have above in Nasdaq, all the selling, all the profits, how can I say? All the selling was coming from Cedo yesterday, so the inventory here is very, I would say, weak. So let's see. I wouldn't be. I know they started here with ES. Let's see if this high is taking, and let's see if the ES now can close the gap, the upper gap. And I think these two markets are really in sync now. And something that I noticed yesterday, let's open this. Oh, come on, from the profile. Let's undo the merges. All right. We have all those things. Let's see if the ES closes this gap. Look at what happened. Remember what happened on the upper side, okay? Ellipse, okay, up here. All right. This is no good. I all started down here with the accumulation volume here. I'm flat now. Why I closed? Why I closed? Because it's a day to downside. I may have closed too soon, but you know, I don't care. You had to take the hit here some. Right at the opening, this is not a good high. And look at this one. This is only 15, only half of the second period, and the market has retraced it like how much? Is this 90% of A, or the initial range? No good, man. This is no good. Just enough access on the high. Just enough for the traders to be selling, to start selling here, right? Downside days, traders sell rallies and take profits on breaks. I am very cautious to call this an unfinished auction. I don't know if this is an unfinished auction. I cannot call it as an unfinished auction. It's weird, though. This is the weirdness of the day continues. The way how this low is. Another, I can't say this. Maybe if I've used 15 minutes periods, I would see better here. Notice how it has one distribution here, another one up here. Actually, this is, it has changed. The tone of the day has changed. Now we have the actions to the upside now in the ES. No? Look at that. No, they have an opening period in the day to the downside. The day is to the downside, right? But the current actions to the upside. The high has been taken. Gap now is very narrow, just a couple ticks, maybe a couple handles on the upside. The action in Nasdaq remains to the downside. Well, that part is different. But notice how momentum or tempo doesn't remains unchanged, right? Since this market, since the ES open, I'm talking about the ES now. Since the ES open, this has opened, the tempo has remained unchanged. Right? Really fast tempo, fast paced market in both directions here, upside, downside, upside, downside. It hasn't dried. When the market came down here, it didn't change. When the market made this low, it didn't change. When the market took this high, it didn't change. When the market made this high, it didn't change, man. But the market here. If you have your P&Ls active, I will strongly suggest you to remove it or to hide it or to set it to off. You don't want to trade your P&L, man. That's not good. This is quite interesting. This chart here, I don't know. I have just put this up today because I just have the ES here because I consider Nasdaq doesn't have too much volume. But it was very useful today, really, because I use this to, for example, if I have the ES here, this market when short term is the dominant force, during any given trading day, it has a tendency to aim to this accumulate, to these volume nodes here. Not. Yeah. It seems like that's the case today as well. We got this in the lower side yesterday or a couple of days ago, which was extremely bad. Now that has been corrected. And what happened when there is a correction? The correction happened and then up we go again. Now what I'm looking is this one up here, or this market attempting to close or to do something with the lower gap. But what it's going to be, I have no idea, man. That's for sure. I have no idea. I have zero idea what's that. Have noticed there is no blocks here. So if there's no blocks here, so probably what I could be seeing here is the trading of what happened, or the resolution, or the continuation of the trading that happened here, right? And if I have this kind of activity, all of this activity aiming to the downside, this can be some positioning, and just, if some participants can get 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 contract at once, they can also have the power to move, this market when it has thin volume, meaning the overnight. I'm not saying that's what they do, because there's no way for me to actually know that. And look at what's happening now here, man. Look at Nasdaq, for example, right now. Look how much V has, since it opened, and the advance that has had, look how much has retraced here. This is something that I have to have in consideration, because if there is a strength in the current movement, it won't give back that much. Really, marker. Why it doesn't come here? All right, let me move this one from here to here. All right, what is this? This is hardback. This is center of this one. This is the center of the day, center of the current period. Let me change this to another color. What can we do here? What color can we do it here? Let's do this color. Like that. Now, the same way of thinking, all right? The mindset is very important. Remember when I got the upside movement, what I was thinking, what I thought when this happened. What I say at the time was the rational thing is when you see accumulation of volume at certain levels, as the market goes in certain direction, the rational thing is the market will do this. But markets are anything but rational. Markets are irrational. And I got to be very careful actually when I start to kind of like have very or absolute conclusion that the market is going to do something. That's when I become very alert, right? And actually start thinking, trying to think outside the box. I'm flat, as you say. I took a counter trend here. I didn't expect much because it was a trade that is against what the market is doing. Now, the same way to thinking about these nodes of volume, the daily, in the daily time, in the daily histograms. Now this is the 30 minutes in the years, for example. This is accumulation here, right? More likely these guys here have, if they still have conviction to the downside, they might have average price here, right? Or this can also be, emotional, traders, right? Or traders being caught by the emotions, and after they saw the market going high, because this market is going to reverse. Now we are going to make a new high. We are going to trade back inside previous range and make an all-time new highs, right? I better be positioned here to the upside. It's a day to the downside. Just check it out while you're having the upside. But the volume that could have provided fuel for the movement is given here, or was given by this distribution down here. Now what I see is tremendous volume, the ES, right, which is quite different actually, and that's another divergence here, right? And let me show you. I have here the ES. Hold on. This is the ES. Notice how high. This is about 30% higher than yesterday. Yeah, it continues in the second period. But if I check the market overall, first period was on pair and actually in the lower side on most of the previous day. Second period is lower than yesterday, right? And that gives me another divergence here. The more the divergences that I observe, the more likely, or the odds increases that I will see, that I may be seeing a rotational day. The Dow remains inside range, very questionable high, very questionable low, very questionable highs in Nasdaq and ES, both in sync with Russell to the downside. Okay. If I zoom in further, I see Nasdaq trying to close the lower gap, but with very questionable high, right? With this gap being closed, it doesn't give me the confidence to hold any trades, or to give the market too much room here for anything the market wants to do, because it can go against me really far, right, really quick. What favors, what can be in the sides of or in the screens of many people here is the 50 moving average, really close, I say, right, or very achievable for Nasdaq. Actually, my blog charts are working. I thought were not. All right. Now look at this high Nasdaq, man. Look at this high here. The auction the ES is actually to the upside. But the fact, this is the current divergences that I'm seeing, right? The fact that now the ES has not closed its gap, its upper gap, now gives us a sign, or gives me a sign that there is a certain weakness here, at least in the short term, right? While Nasdaq is giving me the exact sign, I mean the exact opposite sign, exactly the opposite. And when I got those kind of divergences, I tend to be careful because for me at least, the odds of rotation increases for markets. Overall, the tone of the day, as everybody can see, and this is I don't have to be that brilliant to say or to see the market is to the downside. Markets are to the downside. All right, this stream was intended to be just like I intend to do a stream for like just a couple minutes. I intended to close before the opening, but it has extended further. And unless you have any questions, I'm going to be calling, or comments, I'm going to be calling it a day. I wish you guys a wonderful rest of the day. Have a good trading. Stay safe. Bye-bye.